Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to share with you a clip from a recent members only live event, and in this video we're going to talk about gold foil cards and why I believe we are severely overlooking and undervaluing gold foil cards right now. The multiplier differential between regular foil and gold foil with certain additions is far tighter, far closer than it probably should be. And I think ultimately there'll be a greater multiplication available, meaning those who buy gold foils, especially Chaos Legion, over the next probably 6 months, I bet you're going to see outsized returns on those cards because they have great utility currently and they have a long-term destination for greater and greater scarcity, greater and greater demand. Not to say that other cards won't go up too, but I see this as a unique opportunity for a lot of reasons, and I want to unpack that in today's video. So I hope you'll stick around and stay tuned. Have an amazing day, guys. God bless. Okay, well, let me tell you a few things about what's going on with me lately. You've noticed the price of everything dipping, and this is impacting some of the plans and creating delays. It's not the end of the world. I don't even think this is I think this is an opportunity, not a concern, but it's in my way. And I think it's probably in your way too. And I think we've kind of seen like a slowdown in some of the sales. And I think even in the packs card prices, we can see it as we start to look at if we come into my cards and you go to owned, if you track this stuff, you'll see the difference. We're down to $34,097. That's almost a $2,000 reduction on my total value over that's even the last 4, 5, 6 days. And that's definitely a product of lack of purchasing happening, and lack of purchasing happens when there's a reduction in sort of wealth. And there's a reduction in wealth when SPS goes down in price. So people get a little loose. This is the fun thing this is the crazy. I keep trying to wrestle with with the best verbiage for what I'm trying to say here. I've said this in a lot of ways in a lot of different contexts, and I really want to nail this because I think there's something really deeply important about what I'm trying to say here. There's this what's that called? It's like where one thing leads to another and then to another, and they're like dominoes hitting each other. Like when the first domino falls, the second one falls. It's not a question of if, but it's really when, because the first one knocks the second one over. And if you think about cryptocurrency and Splinterlands in that same vein, which I do, then you start to recognize that if SPS goes to 5 cents, then there's increased wealth, at least from a perception basis, for you and me. Now there's more DEC created essentially when SPS goes up in price because of the burn mechanism, etc. But there's also, more importantly, I would think it's really about this increased wealth idea. Like if your portfolio is worth $30,000 and then it's suddenly worth $40,000, nothing has changed, right? You've still got the same cards, the same assets, but something meaningful has changed in the sense of perception. Your perception around your portfolio has altered. If your portfolio goes up $10,000, the cards and SPS you hold, probably everyone else did too. So it's not actually quite likely. It's probably not very likely that you're going to be able to buy more with that increased money. But there's this increased sense of riches and wealth. And that creates then some desire to sell something and buy something else. It creates this, there's an economic term for this. It's like how fast money changes hands. There's a phrase for that. There's a word for that. I forget what it's called. But it's important in terms of every economy. Because if people just start holding their money, what ends up happening is those who are trying to sell start getting more and more and more because there's a certain amount of sellers that are just natural. And if those units don't move, well, that means they stay on the shelves, but new sellers are always coming. So the stock available to sell is always growing, which means prices are always declining. So the degree to which we are tight with our money is a direct impact to the increase of prices. The point is, as the price of SPS or our tokens go up, or even just generally our portfolio, what I'm really aware of is that translates into a willingness to spend more, and that translates into a willingness in those other people that we buy from to spend more. And it creates this real, either we're right now we're being more tight with our money, with our resources, because we don't feel that wealth, even though we have, you know, a varying degree of wealth, you know, wherever you're at in this game. And only after we start to see that tick up, that 10%, that 20%, that 50% increase, you'll start to see more and more and more individuals liquidating one asset because they feel it's the right price, and then buying other assets, which drives those portfolios up as well because they're getting new liquid money, and those items are selling means that there's fresh money that people feel they've won, and it just causes this circulation of the funds, and it causes this upward cycle for the prices. And it's not necessarily even whether or not SPS doubles. It's really just, is there one thing in the market that is really growing in value? It could be land, it could be SPS, it could be vouchers because of the upcoming thing. Any one of them, dominoes can fall, and it causes the others to fall. And I think that's the thing that like everybody, I'm waiting on. Like I'm not going to rush in to sell something right now at these prices. I've got 120,000 SPS still that I'm waiting to sell. I'm going to wait on the right price. I don't care if it's 6 months or 6 years from now. I'm not going to sell this SPS for 2.5 or even 3.5 cents. I sold a little bit. I think I sold 20,000 or 25,000 at, I think it was 20,000 at 3.8 cents because I felt that it was going to come back down from there. And it did. I happened to be right at that moment. Now, if I had stayed liquid and just kept it in DEC, man, you know, I could have played that swing into 2.5 cents. But I'm not interested in playing swings like that. I just really want to, what I'm trying to do is move into more card assets that I want. And I'm trying to move out of some of the crypto assets that I hold. But I'm trying to do that in the most logical path. And I need to be patient. If the prices aren't here yet, I need to be patient. It doesn't matter if I don't have the key cards I want or the key assets that I want. I cannot move until those prices happen. And if that doesn't happen anytime soon, that doesn't even matter. I can't, it has zero to do with the emotional desire, because I have the emotional desire to go out and buy some of these Riftwatcher, some of these Rebellion, even more Chaos Legion. I decided recently that I want more Chaos Legion gold foils. These Chaos Legion are going to be more expensive one day. They just simply are. There's not an infinite number. There's only a limited number. They're really good cards. They will be worth more. And it feels like gold foil is always this card that people sleep on. And people who hold it now don't even really want it. They got it through pack openings or whatever, and they've been using it maybe, but they're not super, super crazy about having every gold foil card. There's only a select audience that are like that. And so I want to cater to that select audience by acquiring as much of these as I can. I can use it on my land in the meantime, by the way. And then simultaneously, I can just wait for the future where I do think that these are going to be rare. Maybe that's 10 years away. I have a confidence in the game across that sort of horizon. And if we look at what the price differentials are on some of the older cards, and I know some will say like you can't compare alphas and betas to, you know, Chaos Legions. I think you're just talking timeline. You know, there's almost no alphas. This is an alpha common, and there's 46,000. That sounds like a big number until you look at Chaos Legion. And you go into Chaos Legion, and you look at a common, and you see there's a 1.1 million. So that's a huge differential. What is that? 25 times or something, right? Isn't it? Go 50,000 times 25, maybe 23. Yeah. So it's about 23 times more cards than the old alphas. So my answer to you is when the audience is 23 times bigger than it was during alpha, or maybe possibly you might even say 23 times bigger than it is now, that would be the time that Chaos Legion will be as scarce as alpha is today. But remember, in that context, alpha will be 23 times more scarce than it is now. But I'm just saying, in this moment, at this day, as you look at some of the alphas, and you see the differentials between gold and regular. Actually, let's look at it this way. Compare gold versus regular. And if we look at, you're talking 34 is the best differential between alpha regular foil and alpha gold foil. And what the point I'm trying to make is that I really believe these multipliers are far closer to what it makes sense to be for the difference between gold foil and regular foil. So I'm saying it is conceivable that one day gold foil Chaos Legions might be 20 to 30 times more valuable than their regular foil counterparts. They're not even close to that right now. Not even close. Why are they not close? If that's ever gonna be the case, why aren't they close already? Because of what I've explained before when I briefly touched on a moment ago. The idea that the gold foils that exist for each of these cards, first of all, there's a lot of them. And you have to wait for that lot of them to reach the hands that keep them and never move them. Because that's what happens. There's like this filtration system over the ownership of limited resources where they're constantly slipping through the fingers of those who don't really take it seriously, and they're falling into the hands of those who absolutely will never sell. Those people, that is off the market. You might as well have called that deleted in some situations. Certain creators, certain collectors are never going to sell it. It's might as well just be a deleted copy at that time. And so as a result of that, through the filtration process across time, you see the consolidation of these both in burning BCX to make them higher power, but then also the opening of packs to the point where there are no more packs, which means that there are no more new copies available at all. And then finally, this filtration system that leads to them being in the hands of people who will never sell them. All that process will take years for this number of cards. It took 5 years for the alphas to get to that place, right? It's going to take 5 or 10 years for the Chaos Legions to get to that place. Maybe it's a longer number than 5 years because the Chaos Legion is so much more, like there's so many more copies. But again, if the game is going to be here for 10 years, and if there's going to be this multiplication of user base, which I think there will be, and if you imagine that there's a 30 to 50 price difference between gold foil and regular foil of alpha, I think it's reasonable to say a 20 to 30 multiplier between Chaos Legion gold foils is plausible, but it has to go through that filtration process that's multifaceted. All the packs have to be opened. All the gold foils have to be starting to be consolidated, which is a deletion of supply. And finally, they have to fall into the hands of those who are never going to sell them, or some of them do. And that's a drying up of supply, which leads to that multiplier being bigger and wider to the point where scarcity really matters. And when people then want it, it's not 30 cents, but it's $3 or $7 or 10 or something like that. I think that's possible. I'm not going to gamble big on the commons, although I think that all this logic applies to every single gold foil card that ever exists. As long as the game continues to exist, as long as the game continues to be appealing, I think this logic applies to every single gold foil, including commons. But for me, what I'm thinking is I want application utility in the meantime. I'm talking multi-year plan. So what am I going to do in the meantime with these things? I can't necessarily play 20 different accounts, but I do have land. And one of the easiest paths to really maximize the returns in that would be to start getting more and more gold foil cards. And the cheapest gold foil cards are going to be Chaos Legion or Reward. And I start getting them at gold foil because it's a big multiplier over the production output from the regular foil. But it also plays into this long-term investment plan where I believe these gold foils are going to get this greater degree of appreciation than the regulars will ever see. But I'm not saying regulars won't appreciate. I'm saying that everything I just said is true for the regular foils as well. But it has this unique outsized opportunity with gold foils because we've always seen, again, look at the alpha betas. I said 30 to 50 is like common. Look at this 80 quite quickly. The multipliers on gold foils to regulars are wild. And this is the alpha, but betas have huge ones too. 13 to 400, 500. So even if you call it 13 to 30, I think that's being conservative. That's betas. Look at the promos. 6 to 30 quite easily. So like a 30 multiplier is like pretty common. Now these cards are all 3 to 5 years old. So what happens in 3 to 5 years from now? Again, assuming player base grows, assuming the game's still here, assuming that the value proposition and the earning opportunities still exist, the fun and rewarding elements of Splinterlands continue and persist, then I think it's a given. So I'm like, one of my new things is I want to get more and more of the gold foils. Again, I'm not going to focus on commons because I have a bit of a bigger budget. And also because I have a certain plan in the meantime. I don't want to just buy them to hold them. That would be one interesting proposition, and I would probably be willing to do that a little bit. But it's even better if you can buy them, hold them, and use them. So I can only run so many accounts. How else can I use them? Land. I get gold foils and I put them on my land. I can, for these prices, I can buy legendary gold foils, man. I could conceivably buy max copies of every one of these. Now, yes, it's not cheap. There's roughly 30 cards here. It's not quite. It's a little less than that. And even if you said $60 a pop, I already have some of these in max or close to max. But there's no reason why, with the sort of cryptocurrency resources I have access to and the long time horizon I'm thinking through, that I couldn't easily do that. Now, I need some of my other cryptos to move. This is not a plan that I'm going to start today. I don't have this sort of money to throw around in this moment. But I'm saying, if I'm right about all the vision of what crypto is going to offer, then I think I need one of the ways to maximize what I think is coming. I have to bet on myself, right? I believe certain things about Splinterlands. I believe certain things about cryptocurrency. Until I'm disproven, I'm going to lean into those expectations. And what I'm saying is, if my crypto moves the way I think it will and should, then I want to bet on myself. That means I'm right. Because I think crypto is going to move in a certain way. It's going to appreciate in a wild way. SPS is going to go up to 20, 30, 50 cents a dollar. And if I'm right about that, I want to bet on myself again and say, you know what? Not with every penny, not with all of it. I definitely put some in realized cash into the bank, etc. I probably would buy a new wheelchair van for the kids. Better one, a more reliable one. But I feel like if I'm right about that, it's like, it just makes sense to let some of that ride in another way that I think I'm going to be right. I feel confident about what I've thought about Splinterlands, what I've seen, and what I'm expecting for the future. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about crypto. But if I'm right, I want to, this is my path over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think when these start being 30 times or 20 times the price of the regular foils, these numbers are going to get wild. Like, I don't forget about the USD prices. It's like, what does it do in rentals? What does it do in tournament opportunities? What does it do in farming for your land? The opportunities are multifaceted, and yes, the US dollar value will follow. I don't have a predicted number for what those targets would be, but I think it does make sense to start thinking about them as if they're worth at least 20 times what the regular foils are. And they're nowhere near that in this context at this moment. And so that feels like an opportunity. Let's see, rewards right now. So the reward card differentials are between 13 and say 30. Is that right, hey? That's surprising to me that they're already that high. What about Chaos? Yeah, Chaos 7. Like, look at this. Possibilis, Shield, Immortalis. These are 3 of the best summoners in the game. And they have the best gold foil differentials on the Chaos Legion deck. What is that about? These summoners, everyone who comes to this game needs summoners. These are excellent summoners. They still play in Modern. Why are these cards uniquely the lowest of the low in that gold foil differential? It's probably because we have a lot of people who are trying to get in the game for really inexpensive. They're not thinking 5 years down the road. They're trying to play and maximize their returns today, right now. And I get that, and that's wise. But for me, I've got a bit of a different angle, and it's a bit more long-term. And not only do I see, like I said, farming potential, appreciation potential, rental potential, tournament, unique gold foil tournaments opportunities, guild brawl opportunities that are gold foil only, all of that being really interesting. But in addition, there's the bonuses, the rank experience bonuses, right? If you can play 6 cards that are all going to give you gold foil buff, the returns grow really significantly. Man, the times you can add in that 10%, that 5% for the gold foils, for the alphas, for the promos, it matters. And that shouldn't be the sole reason why you would move toward the plan I've outlined. But if you see the fullness of that plan, I think it makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'd love to see in the comments why it doesn't, because frankly, that's what I'm doing.